I always say to them, your win is my win.
Correct.
And they look a little bit confused, like, oh, but it is.
Really?
It is.
Yeah.
It genuinely is. Your win is
Correct.
my
My
win.
win. A very good evening to all of you. Welcome to another exciting episode to the Reengineering Podcast. And I'm Madhusmita Nayak, your host. And today I have a very special guest all the way from UK. She is Saj Zafar. She's the CEO and founder of the Leadership Academy, the Institute of Change in UK. But the good news is that she's expanding her consultancy services in Dubai. Saj, welcome to my podcast. It's a pleasure having you.
It's a privilege. It's a privilege and honor, Madhu, for asking me and for me to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your journey, how you started? I know you are a pioneer. You have broke many stereotypes. So can you tell me about your story?
I think my story is very similar to many little girls' story in the sense that I'm a child of the late 70s. So when I was growing up, there was very little ambition or aspiration because we didn't have any models, role models on a world platform or on television. We especially didn't have social media.
Yeah.
So for me, I didn't have any aspirations or ambitions, but sadly, the life I was born into was something that didn't resonate with me. So I always talk about the fact that my formative years were sadly very laden with a lot of pain and difficulties and hardships. And I think all of those adversities put together led me to a place. By the time I graduated, I just knew that I wanted to work with people.
Okay.
I wanted to make a difference in the world. And more importantly, the people that I wanted to work with were people that came from a similar background to me. And I'm not talking about gender or race. I'm talking about people that overcame adversity. So it's not surprising that I graduated in forensic psychology, ended up in prison, and became the first youngest Asian Muslim woman to become a prison governor. So, and that's where I thrived and strived for many years.
And what made you to choose that role, becoming the first youngest Muslim prison governor?
I didn't choose it, it chose me.
Okay.
And it's as simple as that. I worked in a prison as a forensic psychologist, thoroughly enjoyed my work. Like I said, I had no ambitions or aspirations, but I came to the attention of somebody who was watching my journey, somebody who was asking the question, as a young female, why is she thriving in this very dark and difficult environment? Prisons are not easy for anybody.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And and I always say that prisons are the only places that nobody wants to be in. So
Exactly.
when you're in there and you're leading a community that's so diverse, you're talking about extremities of socialization, in the sense you're talking about drugs, you're talking about abuse. So those are, and you're talking about people that are broken.
Correct.
There.
Already broken.
Already broken in
yeah.
there. So my senior governor, he was just amazed that I was very comfortable.
Yeah.
And looked like I was having a good time. And he thought, why don't you apply for a leadership program? And I applied, and 6 months later, when I graduated the program, that's when I came to learn that I was the first one, the youngest, the Asian, the Muslim. And of course it was celebrated. But the things that were celebrated essentially were my lessons. They were my barriers, because when I was interviewed much later and somebody said, oh, what's the biggest challenge of being, a prison governor? And I think what they wanted me to talk about was the day-to-day stuff. And instead my answer was young Asian female.
So that was your biggest challenge. Yeah.
Because what you have to respect is, I went into an environment that is very likened to a military environment,
Correct.
right, for the staff. So most of the staff are ex-military staff. They were white men in uniform.
Correct.
So they'd never been led by this, young Asian female. And so they struggled with that.
Yeah.
And the thing about, I'm sure we'll talk about leadership, but the thing about the first lesson I learned about leadership was there was no me, myself, and I in leadership. I had to have their respect. I had to be accepted, and I had to have their collaboration, because without their comradeship, I couldn't do my job.
Yes, you have to work along with the people.
So my effort wasn't about understanding the job.
Correct.
My effort was, how do I work with you? How do I get you to like me, to accept me, and respect me, trust me enough to lead you?
That's very interesting, trust you. Trust you in what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, and I was 27 years old.
So young and handling.
I was so young. And I probably was very immature for a 20. I mean, I meet a lot of 27-year-olds and they're on the top of their game. But I was one of those 27-year-olds that was very immature, hadn't experienced life much. And
that was your first job?
It was my second job, because I was a forensic psychologist before then.
Okay.
But the thing that I always revert to is being true to myself, right?
Yeah.
And one of my biggest attributes, I think, is about emotional intelligence. Because of my own experiences, I knew what it was like to bleed. I knew what it was like to be wounded. I knew what it was like not to be liked and respected and trusted.
And that came from your personal experience and background.
So those very experiences, and as I've gone through life, even now today, I'm mindful that God actually prepares you for these things.
Correct.
Even though you might not know it at the time, I think the lessons He gives you, there is a lesson in everything that you do.
And there is a purpose behind.
There's a purpose.
Yeah.
So for me, all the hardships and everything that I'd gone through, so when I became a governor, I just knew. And I think what people saw, they saw vulnerability. And in my vulnerability, they saw courage, because I didn't land with my teams or the prison and pretending to know it all. And the first day, I learned that everything that they taught me, in my training, from the books and the scenarios and the role plays and the lessons, the teachings, none of that applied, because what I was left with was the human reality that I'm in a situation, and nothing's prepared me for this.
Correct.
Nothing has prepared my staff for this. So we're now going to have to build a relationship, and the best way to do that is to be me and to be honest.
And to be transparent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I didn't shy away from saying to somebody, if they asked me a question, I would never say, try to waffle
or try to pretend, right? Pretend, like that you know it. Yeah.
So I used to say, I don't know.
Yes.
And they'd be like, you could see from the expression, that's not what I expect my governor to tell me,
but
that I don't know. And I don't want to say, I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I can find out for you.
Yes.
And I would find out.
Yes.
And the other thing that I did that was very unusual, I used to talk to the prisoners. So I made it a point, and in today's living, I work with a lot of CEOs, and one of the things I say to them, do you actually open your door and leave your office and go onto the shop floor? And some of them are quite surprised that I'm asking that question. And they said, well, why would I do that? I'm the CEO.
Yes.
And I always say, yes, you're the CEO, but, that's a privilege,
Correct.
CEO, that's a privileged position, but also it comes with responsibility and accountability.
Correct.
But if you don't know what's outside of your front door, then how do you expect your workforce to be led by you? And if it's through instruction or emails, I'm so sorry, you're going to be doomed.
Yeah.
And research is telling us now that a lot of first-time CEOs are failing within the first 18 months.
Because of the closed door.
Yeah, because of the closed door, but also this mentality that, I'm now a CEO.
And I know everything.
I know everything. you don't.
Yes.
You know, you're only as good as the people that you serve, and that's the word that I always use. And you know, people get a little bit taken aback, and I think it might be a little bit of cultural understanding when I say the people you serve, and they think CEO serving. No, I'm leading. Yes, you can lead, but you lead through serving.
Yes.
You know, so and it's a big mind shift for some people.
Such a beautiful takeaway. You lead by serving, not lead by commanding, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work.
And I completely agree with you what you said. Like the statement that goes like, you know, fake it till you make it doesn't work.
It doesn't.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't, because you get found out.
Yes.
And imagine you were faking it, and then all of a sudden, you know, you get found out.
And they know your reality.
And it
then.
can take a lifetime. You know, one of the things I always say to people, it can take a lifetime to build trust, and it can take a single moment to break it. And once you lose it, sadly, you've lost it. You know, nobody's going to come back and sort of say, okay, I forgive you, you know, especially when those people rely on you to be open, to be transparent, you know. So people are looking for the human touch. They're not looking at your qualifications. They're not looking at your credentials. And, you know, I always do this work with CEOs around, you know, the first 90 days. And they say, oh, what do I need to do? You know, do I need to the numbers, and do I need to look at the finances? Do I need to look at scaling? And I'm saying, no, you don't need to look at anything.
And people believe in leaders who walk the talk.
Yeah.
It's not like what they put and what the credentials, as you correctly said. Yeah.
Absolutely. And they said, well, what do you want me to look at? And I said, I want you to go and build your relationships. I'm not here to build my relationships. I'm here to do the work. I'm here to take the company. And I'm saying, before you can take the company,
start with relationships.
Start with your relationships, because it's these people that will serve you. And once they learn about you and trust you, they will do anything, you know. And you want people to follow you without having to tell them to follow you.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation when somebody says, you know, I'm the CEO, you need to follow me, and they look at you and thinking, really? You know, and you don't get.
Yeah, we don't get.
You don't get the buy-in,
because you need to convince, and I need to get convinced by my line manager that what he is saying is correct to follow.
Exactly. Yeah. So invest in your people, and the rest will follow.
And building relationship, it's a great takeaway. And saying that, in your entire career in prison, like in the prison system that you have done, what is the legacy that you have left in UK prison system?
I think the legacy that I left was she brought humanity. I think I like to think that I touched lives, I saved lives. Because that was the thread that ran through my leadership. That everybody's a human being. Everybody, you know, I was never there to judge. I never judged anybody. You know, I used to have staff saying, oh, do you know, he's killed his family, his children, or he's raped somebody, or he's done this, or because I worked in male prisons, by the way. I did a very short stint in a female prison, and I didn't last very long.
Okay.
So, and you know, for me, and I used the look that I always remember, and I always, you know, hold very close, is when you speak to somebody who believes that they are not worth anything.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting emotional. And I'm thinking that, you know, I never let anybody pass by without saying hello and how are you and what's going on, and following up, you know, on those conversations. As much as I was building my relationships with my staff, I was building my relationship with my prisoners, because the courts had judged them. They were sentenced.
Yes.
And my, you know, role was was a public responsibility of protecting the public, but also I also saw it my, you know, responsibility to, whilst they were in my care, and that's how I saw it. Whilst they were in my care, I was not there to punish them, and I wanted to make sure that whilst they were in my care, that their stay was decent, it was healthy, and it was purposeful.
And they're respected.
And it was a very different way of governors working, you know, that way, because they were not accustomed to that. And within the scope of the regime and the security, there was human beings. There was human beings, and I could never forget that.
I'm getting goosebumps and getting emotional because
I could not forget that.
yeah. And what is one of the biggest win, getting back the prisoners into basic human rights that they have already lost, by getting judged by entire family, community.
Yeah.
Any heartwarming story that you have where you have seen prisoners back in life?
There are so many stories and so many prisoners, but they're people. And, the starting premise was always they are somebody's father, brother, son, husband, And when you start to see them as people and as persons, then I think it brings a different perspective. And you don't realize the impact you have had.
Yeah.
Right. So whilst in a closed environment, in such a difficult environment, you don't probably see that many wins. But I do remember that one day I was shopping with my husband. My children were very, very young. We were in a shopping mall, and we were just going about our business on a typical weekend afternoon. And out of the blue, right, this 6'5", black guy just jumped right in front of us, right?
Okay.
Actually making me physically jump. My husband panicked, because we had two babies, and we were minding our business doing
You
our
got scared. Yeah.
We got scared, and he literally physically grabbed me, but he grabbed me in a hug.
Okay. Okay.
And then it took a split second for me to realize that this was okay. We were not being robbed. And he hugged me, and he said, governor, and I was like, oh my gosh, please nobody listen to this, right? And he says, I saw you, and I just had to come and just say to you, I just wanted you to know how much you've meant to me. And I just felt really awkward and embarrassed, and I was like, oh, okay. And I couldn't remember his name, and I was trying to place him, and he said, you changed my life. He said, you changed my life. He goes, I want you to know, you sent me to school. So inside the prison, we have an education system. And he said, you forced me, and he goes, I was dealing drugs. I was carrying on with all the activities that I'd been sent to prison. And he said, I'll never forget, you sat on my bed and you had this conversation with me like any mother would have with a child.
What
right?
a moment, and
he said something in me, and you said you actually told me that if I didn't do what I was supposed to be doing, that I needed to rethink my life. And he said, I learned to read and write. He goes, I came out, I got myself a security job, I got myself a partner, I have a young son. And he said, if you hadn't come and sat on my bed and invested those few minutes basically telling me off and kicking my backside to do something with my life, I'd probably be still where I am.
What an impact you have done, and maybe.
And there are many, stories, and and you just feel, as important those stories are. But I do believe that this is my calling, this is my purpose. It's not my job.
Yeah.
And I always believe that. My coach has always said to me, and it's something that I live by, he always says that every time you have an interaction with another human being, make sure that you leave them better for meeting you.
And you are truly doing that. Yeah. I'm so impressed by you, and maybe you are making me a better human being after this interview, for sure.
Oh, thank you.
Saying that, what are your future plans and how you are taking it forward?
Okay. So it's very, very simple. I came out of prisons. I then went into central government, where I was working with ministers, politicians, and very senior people, including the prime ministers of the UK. I loved that, but there was something amiss.
Okay.
And the bit that I always gravitate towards was what you and I are having, these conversations. Passing on experiences, and through those experiences that you learn and you better yourself. And so what I decided to do, I resigned from 22 years of my career
Okay.
And I think one of the difficult things you can do is when you're doing so well. So
And
imagine then you resign. I think
resign.
it's always good if you resign when things are not going good.
Correct.
But I was at the pinnacle of my, they
And
wouldn't
then you
even-
resigned.
And then I resigned.
Mm.
And I resigned because I thought I need to leave more of a legacy.
Mm.
I had a health scare, and there was a conversation between me and my God where I wanted to know was, if I was to die, what is it that I'm leaving behind? What is it that I'm leaving behind? And the other question I had for God was, if I've struggled all my life, which
Okay.
I had, nothing came easy to me. So that struggle couldn't be in vain. It had to be for something.
Yes.
And if through that struggle and hardship there was things that I could impart on others, then what would that be? And that's when I decided to start up my coaching business. So today I've made a very bold statement, but it's a statement that I buy into, that I intend to impact 1 million women across the globe through my story, through my experience. And I want to help women to overcome any barriers that they might have around their mindset, around their self-image, and all of the emotional baggage that we tend to hold, and help them to smash their inner glass ceilings. So that is my purpose, and I was happily doing this in London, UK, and again, my business coach said, if you want to go global, you're not going to do that by sitting in London. And he said, where would you like to go? And I've come to Dubai on holiday, and my intention was, where can I go where my services will be recognized, but more importantly, appreciated?
Yes.
So I thought, I want to go east. I don't wish to go to the west. I didn't want to go to the US. I didn't want to go to the Europe. And I said, you know what? I'm going to go to the Middle East. And I'm going to start in Dubai, and then I'm going to just spread across that part of the world. So that's how I've ended up here.
You found your purpose, and congratulations for getting into Dubai.
Thank you.
And what do you have to offer to Dubai?
I have to offer authenticity. I want to connect with women that want to connect with themselves. I don't buy into the Dubai bling.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about authenticity. It's about you as a human being, and how do you show up in your life. And we know that women sadly carry a lot of self-doubt.
Yes.
They lack self-belief. They struggle with their own self-image.
And you are anchoring them.
Absolutely. And it's about once you learn your basics, so when you learn to reconnect with you, center yourself, then I think when you align your head and your heart and with your gut, as I call it, the three brains, then, you can show up in the best light in anywhere you go.
Correct. There will be no roadblock. There will be
No.
roadblock, but you will overcome them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And why 1 million women only? Why not 1 million men and women?
It can be men.
Okay.
I'm not exclusive.
Okay.
I'm all about inclusive. I spent my entire adult life working with men, being managed by men, and serving men. Okay, I think because I feel most comfortable with women, although I find working with women can be very difficult. I think I mentioned earlier that I went to a female prison,
And you had shortest stay
and
there.
it was the shortest day. I couldn't get out of there.
Yeah.
Because I think with men, I'm just going to say it as it is. It's very black and white.
Okay.
I don't think men are complicated. I don't think men are complex. I think whatever a man thinks, he says.
They're straightforward.
Yeah. I think with women, we think something, we feel something,
And
by
we
the
say
time-
something.
and say something, and which saddens me.
Yeah.
Which really saddens me. And we also we are run by our insecurities. So and you've got to be. The thing is, what I teach women is to be comfortable in their own skins.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think that's the basic thing they should realize.
So when you're comfortable in your own skin, it does, because there will always be another woman that's taller, more slimmer, more beautiful than you, you know.
So what?
So
So
what?
what?
Because you have to always come back to you. And women have to learn and recognize their own self-worth,
Correct.
their value, so important. And, you know, and also I think the other lesson that I really want to encourage and teach, and I don't see a lot of with women, is that, you know, we have to build our tribes. You know, that's how men are successful. They build their tribes. You know, there is comradeship. You know, they don't have those insecurities. You know, they'll build relationships and they understand those relationships. Whereas we, I think, essentially complicate things.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't get insecure. And what we should say is, your win is my win. And, you know, all the programs that I run, I consistently, when somebody's, you know, achieves something or promotion or makes a breakthrough,
We should compliment. Yeah.
you know, I always say to them, your win is my win.
Correct.
And they look a little bit confused, like, oh, but it is.
Really?
It is.
Yeah.
It genuinely is. Your win
Correct.
is my win.
Hmm.
And as long as women can do that and we can come together, you know, we'll make this world a much better
place. Yeah.
A much better place. And that's I think what we're all trying to do.
Correct. And I think we need coaches more like you,
Thank you.
to build on our self-belief and create a beautiful community where we support each other.
Absolutely.
But
and, you know, I got recently asked what separates you because the market's so saturated. There's so many coaches. And I said,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say what separates me, but a lot of coaches come into this field and they treat it as a business. And that's one thing I don't do.
Yeah.
I don't treat my
Not to put your
coaching-
commercialization.
Yeah, I don't, you know, I just got asked, you know, earlier about why am I not on social media? Why am I not, you know, doing more PR stuff? And I think to myself that, I have a very strong faith. Nothing will pass me that's not meant for me. That's one. And, you know, I always, you know, in my prayers and in my gratitude, I always ask that align me with those women or people, men, children, whoever, who needs my help. And they will come in all forms, all sizes at any given time.
Correct.
But I have to make sure that I'm always ready to be there to help them ease their journey and to keep them moving forward.
Excellent. And I think starting your consultancy in Dubai will help many individuals like women leaders who are aspiring and still struggling to find out their true purpose, their true calling.
I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm in my midlife. I left my husband, my children, and literally got on an aeroplane, came here. I don't have family here. I don't have friends here. Literally an alien. And I think, you know, this is a place where dreams are made of.
Correct.
And, you know, it's early days. But I have faith. I have faith that I will land and establish myself and do the work that I'm supposed to do.
Wishing you good luck
Thank
and
you.
all the best for your
Thank you.
future.
Thank you so much.
You are also a cultural intelligence facilitator.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's a very big word,
Yes.
very rare in this region. So can you tell what are the dimensions that we take into consideration when you consider cultural intelligence?
Okay, cultural intelligence is something that is widespreading. So we know everybody has an IQ.
Yeah.
We also know many people have EQ.
EQ.
And now what we're promoting is CQ. And cultural intelligence, especially for these parts of the world, but across the world, basically it's having an intelligence that crosses all borders. So a lot of organizations, obviously where we are in 2024, we have to make sure that our workforce and there is equal representation in diversity, that we are inclusive as leaders, everybody has a sense of belonging, we know that.
Yes.
But what cultural intelligence does, it doesn't actually focus on age or race or
The nationality.
Gender. No. And let's just take Dubai for example. So
Correct.
Dubai, we have, oh my gosh, I don't know how many hundreds of nationalities.
More than
Right.
120 nationalities.
So when you go into workspaces, there are so many nationalities. And what I think, you know, leaders need to be thinking about is how do I create cultures that are conducive for everybody? Okay?
Yeah.
And so what they don't do is say, oh, we will treat women particular way, we will treat, the Indian race like this, or we will treat the Arab. They don't. What they say is, how do we treat everybody in such a way that we are inclusive, right?
Yeah. Okay.
And how can we interact every single day in a way that is of respect, transparency, trust, and
belongingness.
Yes,
Yeah.
and a belongingness.
Yes.
And I think, so this is a new way, it's a new concept of thinking, although it's been around and tested over hundreds and hundreds of countries, and and I think the big names like Google and Amazon and those Goldman Sachs banks are particularly buying into this concept, because that's what they want to do. They don't want to just have separate policies for women,
yes,
or separate policies for people that are disabled, or any of those
so they make it part of their own
so what
strategy, holistic.
What they're saying is, let's create a whole culture,
correct,
where when people come in, they immediately feel warm, welcomed, trusted, and it's the basic stuff of being a human being.
Correct. And this has to be felt by the individuals from the day one they're joining the company.
Yes.
Very well said. And saying that, have you ever faced any challenges when you talk about cultural intelligence in a company? So they related to ROI or the business growth. So was there any difficulty that you faced while convincing?
It's the mindset. I think it's people. The biggest challenge I have is that not everybody. If you're in a privileged position, then sometimes you feel like you have to. And when you have to, that means that you don't want to.
Okay.
And so therefore it feels as though it's been imposed on you.
Okay.
And I see a lot of people in power, in privilege, in those leadership roles where although they understand it and they respect that it's needed, they don't feel it's their priority.
Okay.
So it goes back to that original, I think we've done a 360 in this interview. It's those leaders that will say to me, well, they're not performing, and they portion the blame, external to them. They'll say, oh, the workforce is not performing, Saj, my figures are not looking good,
So why, yes.
Yeah, and then I immediately say, oh, what are you doing wrong? And they look, what do you mean, what am I doing wrong?
Correct.
It's them. And it's like, well, as long as you hold on to the belief that it's them, but they're only responding to your leadership.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So clearly for me, I don't, and they usually hire me to work with the workforce. They say, you need to sort the workforce out. And I'm saying,
no,
yeah, I can do that. I can do that. But I need to start with you. And that's where, they get a little bit, okay.
No, it's not me, it's them.
It's them. And as long as you hold on to that view. And sadly, the reality and the truth of the matter is there are lots of leaders who hang on to their leadership because of their job title.
Okay. Exactly.
There's very few leaders that will make the impact, give value, and really lead in such a way that essentially their workforce will, not only do what they're expected to do, but go that extra mile.
Okay.
So those leaders are very few. So for me, although there are challenges, I always start with the mindset. When somebody says, I need you to come into my organization, I need you to find out what the problems is. And I don't mind troubleshooting, but you've also got to be prepared for a very honest conversation. And if that conversation is, I've gone out there, I've spoken to the staff, and basically what I'm hearing is that there are weaknesses in your leadership.
Okay.
And then the conversation. And I've been very blessed, and I think I've been told that not many people, I'm seen as a critical friend.
Yeah.
So people, I've had CEOs.
But authentic friend who give the right direction.
They say, because for me, you've hired me to do something.
Yeah.
And I'm not prepared to do something, do a tick box exercise.
Correct.
To fuel your ego, to make you look good and feel good. When essentially, if you did a little bit of the things that I asked you to do, you'll make a fantastic leader.
Yes, and they want solution. They don't want to tell them that you are good.
Yeah, exactly. So
Brilliant, brilliant. And I think this is the reality that companies should realize that when there is a problem, it starts from top to bottom, not only
Yeah,
the bottom layer. Yeah,
it starts from top to bottom and bottom to top, but it's a marriage of the two.
correct.
It's finding that midway where
Where,
you've got a harmony, you've got a healthy balance.
yeah. Amazing. And what a journey, from where you started, what you are
Yes.
doing now. Saying
Yes.
that, what is your future mission?
My future mission, I'm just getting started. So, I want to go on the global platform. I'm not shy about that. My first visit, I came here to test the market, to test the appetite of the Dubai leaders. Can I just add, I have been warmly welcomed and appreciated. And secretly, I am falling in love with Dubai.
Amazing.
So
Are you
much
planning to shift here permanently?
I would love to. I
Okay.
would love to. So I'm going to go back to the UK because I have family there, my own home and my life there. But my intention is for the next 12 months to keep returning, building those relationships, making the impact and value that I want to give.
Yes.
And then just moving on and forward into the Middle East.
Definitely. And I think that's the beauty of Dubai. I came for 6 months.
Yes.
Now I'm 16 years in Dubai.
And, I'd love to sit with you in 16 years' time and say, my gosh, I never went back.
yeah.
So I'd love to share that with you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
It's an honor, and really, I got goosebumps while listening to your story. And before we sign off, my last question will be you have achieved so much. You have impacted so much, I think, humanity aspect, right? So
Yeah.
going forward, what you want to give as a re-engineered advice to our audience?
Re-engineered advice, simply put, change is constant.
Yeah.
Don't fight it, right? Don't stay in your comfort zone. Growth will only come when you step out of your comfort zone. And it's through that growth and learning that we actually become the best self.
But constantly, we should keep learning
Yes.
and
You've
pushing
got
our
to,
limits.
because as human beings, you have to accept that you have to grow and evolve and thrive, and find what it is that makes your heart sing.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Lovely
you.
talking to you, and I hope our audience will take so many insights from you. That how you have re-engineered your career, and that too handling the community that you have handled with so much of care and
Yeah.
trust. Thank you so much, and audience listening to us, stay tuned. And if you like this episode, please like and subscribe. And every Friday evening, 6 p.m. UA time, I come up with re-engineered stories from authentic individuals who are redefining and reinitiating the definition of success. Till then,